तो जमीन के हैं यही काम पढ़ रहे हैं एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को चलाने के लिए, ना कि स्पेस के। तो डोमेस्टिक So hello students and welcome to another lecture, and the topic of this lecture is legal analysis of space mining in India. Space mining, space में mining करना, यानी कि क्या मतलब हुआ? स्पेस माइनिंग का मतलब ये हुआ कि अर्थ में हम माइनिंग के तो देखिए बहुत सारे रूल्स हैं, लेकिन जब माइनिंग स्पेस माइनिंग की बात आती है तो इट कवर्स बोथ माइनिंग बिलो द सर्फेस ऑफ द अर्थ एंड अबव द सर्फेस ऑफ द अर्थ, दैट इज mining in some of the celestial bodies. Now let us first understand what is space mining. Okay, the earth is abundant of natural resources used for commercial purposes such as petroleum, iron, aluminium, etc. Keeping in view man's trail of development and progress, several natural resources from planets other than Earth have also begun to be extracted, such as helium-3 and regolith from moon. Space mining emerges as the only way to achieve the purpose. It refers to the activities involving extraction of valuable resources from natural deposits either upon, above, or below the surface of planets, asteroids, and other celestial bodies. The process necessitates recognition of appropriate celestial bodies with resources and their extraction, transportation to Earth. It is based on conviction that the use of resources available in space shall encourage further space exploration and also benefit the industrial network on Earth. That is something new. Okay. अभी तक अर्थ के नीचे माइनिंग हो रही थी, अभी ऊपर जाके माइनिंग होगी ताकि स्पेस एक्सप्लोरेशन हो और वहां पे जो रिसोर्सेज हैं उनका सही इस्तेमाल अर्थ पर हो, यानी कि जमीन पर हो. Okay. However, the legitimacy of space mining remains a controversial legal issue. Due to absence of any express legislative framework across most nations, conflicts and interpretations of treaties and agreements. See, that is very important. चांद पर जाकर माइनिंग करना या किसी सेलेस्टियल बॉडी पे जाके एक्सट्रैक्शन करना, क्या ये इसका कोई लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है? हम किस कानून के मुताबिक वहां जाकर एक्सट्रैक्शन कर सकते हैं, किस अथॉरिटी से? क्योंकि कोई भी कंट्री क्लेम कर सकता है, खाली इंडिया ही के ऊपर तो कोई सेलेस्टियल बॉडी नहीं है. ऐसा है कि सारी एयर स्पेस हमारी हो गई, सारे कंट्रीज हैं, सब कंट्रीज मिलकर डिसाइड करेंगे. इंटरनेशनल ट्रीटीज हैं, एग्रीमेंट्स हैं, क्या लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है? लेट अस सी. ओके, international framework on space mining. The international framework on space mining comprises several treaties and agreements entered into between nations or laws made by the United Nations that are ratified globally, shaping the rights, obligations, and liabilities of nations with regard to space mining. Some of these treaties and statutes are discussed below. Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, 1966. This is one of the treaties. Now, it is also known as the Outer Space Treaty, and places key emphasis on beneficial space exploration for peaceful purposes. Now, everything has to be done for peaceful purposes. No destructive purposes, no destructive means, no weapon making or weapon manufacturing, no weapons of mass destruction or WMDs or ballistic missiles or nothing else. Only and only for constructive and peaceful purposes, for example, for generation of electricity. Even nuclear proliferation is done on the earth for the generation of electricity. I'm not saying that the countries are doing it for peaceful purposes. The countries are doing it for destructive purposes only, but the question is it should be done for peaceful purposes. That's what what some of the international treaties also mentioned. Okay, the treaty is a product of UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. One of the key provisions of the treaty is the tenet of non-appropriation of space by any nation. The principle of non-appropriation states that any celestial body or object cannot be subject to an ownership claim by any nation. ये तो मैंने अभी स्टार्टिंग में बोला था, कोई भी ओनरशिप क्लेम नहीं कर सकता, कोई भी ओनरशिप क्लेम नहीं कर सकता कोई भी नेशन. It emphasizes that space and its constituents shall be the common patrimony of all humans. Although the treaty does not expressly dictate the validity of space mining, its provisions pose challenges to the determination of ownership of resources extracted from celestial bodies. Another treaty, the agreement The agreement governing the activities of states on the moon and other celestial bodies, 1979. It is also known as the Moon Agreement, made by the UN General Assembly and is an extension of Outer Space Treaty. The key provisions of the agreement is that any resource extracted from the moon shall be used for the common purpose of all humanity and not be subject to a sovereign claim by any country. For example, if any nation has went to the moon and has extracted something out of the moon. Now, whatever has come out, this resource is a community resource, international community resource. No nation can claim sovereignty over this, that this belongs to us. No. Okay. Then comes, it also signifies the importance of preserving the biological and physical environment of the moon while conducting space mining. Then comes the Artemis Accords 2020. It was made by NASA. Okay. It was made by NASA and is a set of international principles governing space mining and exploration. The intent is to facilitate cooperation among nations regarding space exploration. It provides that mining and utilization of resources from celestial bodies in outer space shall be done in a clear and ecological manner. Further, any such activity shall not interfere with other countries' space activities. India is also a signatory to the accord. Indian legal framework. Now, what is the Indian legal framework? What does our domestic law says on this? Apart from being signatory to several international treaties and agreements, India also has a limited statutory framework dealing with space mining. Some of the constituents of the framework are discussed below. The Satellite Communication Policy 2000, it is also known as SATCOM. You must have read this. This is a very popular policy. SATCOM and is a fundamental policy framework dealing with infrastructure required for successful mining operations such as licensing, data transmission, satellite communication, and remote surveillance. Although there is no express provision dealing with space mining, its emphasis on satellite communication may merge with the communication requirements of space mining activities. Then comes the Space Activities Act 2017. The act primarily regulates the process of space mining as it lists a prerequisite of obtaining a license and permission from the Indian government before engaging in space mining. It regulates space mining operations by government agencies or non-government entities by ensuring that mining operations are done in an equitable and sustainable manner in accordance with Indian and international legal obligations. That's very simple. Policy Framework for Exploitation and Utilization of Space Resources 2020. The objective of this policy is to ensure compliance of space mining activities with legal, ethical, and economic standards in the international as well as domestic legal framework. Whatever is done in the space, see, all the treaties there commonly have one ground. What is that? That all the space mining, they do not have any sovereign ownership. They do not have any activity which is in contravention with the international principles of law. So, basically, they are all talking about that all the resources in the space, they are owned. They have an community ownership. Everybody owns it equally. Okay. Then comes contentious nature of space mining. Now, there are certain contentious issues involved in the space mining. It's not easy to go and do the mining in the space, in the celestial bodies or on the moon. That's not easy. There are some contentious issues and international principles also, they are not very clear, nor can they can be very clear because space इतना simple नहीं है जितना अर्थ है. आपने जमीन पे बाउंड्रीज बना दी हैं, आपने नेशंस बना दिए हैं, आपने अपने अपने इलाके अलग कर लिए हैं और आपने लॉस बना दिए हैं. दैट डज नॉट मीन के आप स्पेस में इतनी आसानी से कर पाएंगे. कोई मजाक नहीं है. So ambiguity in international framework, that's what I said कि international framework में एक ambiguity है, वो इतना clear नहीं है कहां पर आपको क्या करना है, किस जगह पर कैसे implement होंगे ये laws. That's not easy. There are several international agreements, covenants and treaties entered into between several nations dealing largely with aspects of space exploration. However, space mining continues to remain unexplored and largely unregulated due to the absence of any express provisions dealing with the same. I said this, there exists almost no conditions relating to ownership of extracted resources, liability in the event of any damage caused or propriety rights. अभी हमने सिर्फ simple international treaties में लिख दिया कोई ownership नहीं है. Where are they going to be kept? Who is going to claim the ownership? Who is going to use them? तो ownership कैसे declare नहीं होगी? Ownership declare होगी तो sovereign rights hamper होंगे. डेरोगेटरी, कैश 22 सिचुएशन है, ठीक है। एब्सेंस ऑफ डोमेस्टिक फ्रेमवर्क, अभी किसी कंट्री ने यही लॉज जो जमीन के हैं यही काम पड़ रहे हैं एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को चलाने के लिए, ना कि स्पेस के, तो डोमेस्टिक फ्रेमवर्क भी नहीं है अभी तो, है ना। मेनी कंट्रीज आर येट टू डेवलप डोमेस्टिक फ्रेमवर्क फॉर डीलिंग विद स्पेस माइनिंग. दिस लीड्स टू लीगल uncertainty in space mining. Furthermore, it may result in regulatory oversight, deterrence of investments in the space sector, unauthorized operations, etc. Apart from that, conflicts may also arise between international standards and domestic policy frameworks, which can impose challenges in international collaboration and cooperation. Then ethical brazens. There may also arise ethical challenges with regard to space mining, such as equitable resource distribution, peaceful use of extracted material, preservation of the environment, common ownership, preventing damage to celestial bodies, etc. Intellectual property rights. The process of space mining may involve the development of several technologies, innovations, machinery, or systems which also need to be regulated and governed as a separate class of intellectual property rights. However, this process may involve serious regulatory challenges such as licensing and authorization requirements. See, intellectual property rights, that's very important. If some scientist, a group of scientists from India, or a group of scientists from South Africa, or a group of scientists from some other state, for example, a group of uh, scientists from Netherlands, they have done something and they are sending a delegation to they are sending some mission to Mars or to other celestial body or on the moon. What about the intellectual property rights? We have read about intellectual property rights, we can claim it on the land, but what about if somebody has intellectual property rights, then they can claim physical ownership on that resource as well. So it's going to be a very complicated issue. Then comes liability fixation. The absence of express liabilities of government and other entities in case of damage or destruction caused to any spacecraft, satellite, celestial body, or resources while conducting mining activities in space reduces the sense of responsibility among nations to carry out mining operations carefully and in a secure manner. Who is going to be liable for any loss that caused in the space? What if some country wents on to the moon or to some other celestial body, conducts mining there, and commits a huge loss or commits a huge damage to the body? Who is going to fix the liability and on upon whom? कैसे आंसर, कौन किसको जवाबदेही होगा, किससे क्या पूछ रहा है? हमारी सोवरेनिटी थी, हम चले गए और वहां जाके हम डैमेज कराए, उसके बाद हम किसी को जवाबदेही नहीं, कोई हमसे पाकिस्तान क्यों पूछेगा, हमसे साउथ अफ्रीका क्यों पूछेगा, हमसे युगांडा क्यों पूछेगा, हमसे अमेरिका क्यों पूछेगा? भाई हम सोवरेन है, लेकिन हम रिलायबल भी नहीं है, ना हम जवाबदेही हैं। अच्छा, लाइबिलिटी होगी तो कौन लाइबिलिटी फिक्स करेगा, कहां पे फिक्स करेगा? क्योंकि इंटरनेशनल लॉ में सैंक्शन ही नहीं है। सबसे बड़ी बात तो ये, बहुत सारे जूरिस्ट के अकॉर्डिंग इंटरनेशनल लॉ इज नॉट अ लॉ बिकॉज इट डज नॉट हैव अ सैंक्शन। अगर आप इसके प्रिंसिपल्स को वायलेट करते हैं तो आपको कोई पनिशमेंट ही नहीं देगा, जो कि हो रहा है आजकल। द क्वेश्चन इज दिस के हु इज गोइंग टू फिक्स द लाइबिलिटी एंड अपॉन whom? Determination of property rights. Now, there is no clear, well-defined concept of space property rights in international or national frameworks, which imposes serious challenges with regard to determining who shall be the owner of extracted resources and in what manner they shall be used, who shall exercise discretion over them, whether they be subject to common or particular use, etc. I said this, who is going to use it? सब्जेक्ट कॉमन यूज होगा, पर्टिकुलर यूज होगा, कौन यूज करेगा? क्योंकि सब यूज करेंगे फिर खत्म हो जाएगा, फिर लड़ाई झगड़े शुरू होंगे। तो कैसे आप फिक्स करेंगे? कोई लीगल फ्रेमवर्क होना चाहिए ना। Furthermore, the principle of non-appropriation of resources extracted from space adds to ambiguity in determining property rights. Then environmental protection. Some like space mining also has an adverse impact on the environment of celestial bodies. Further, the lack of sustainable practices in carrying out mining operations poses certain challenges. In order to prevent damage in outer space, safety zones and ecological practices need to be developed. Conclusion. Space mining is emerging to be one of the most profound commercial sectors in the contemporary era. It is supported on grounds of scientific advancement, progress in space exploration. However, the scope and subject of space mining continues to be largely unregulated, mainly due to absence of a clear legislative framework. This results in many legal, ethical, economic and environmental discrepancies, which also discourages its advancement. Therefore, correcting the situation involves the need of a comprehensive legal governance mechanism on aspects of space mining in view of its fast-paced evolution. So that is all on space mining and its legal analysis. Thank you.